A couple of people over recent weeks have just been asking me how therapy is going. So today I thought I'd just try and talk you through it. Basically, I've been having person-centered therapy for about 7 months now. Person-centered therapy is the one where you sit down and you talk to somebody, talk about what you're feeling, what you're going through, and they try and give you a little bit of guidance, I guess, in trying to find the root of why you may be feeling the way that you're feeling. So that's basically what I've been going through for the last 7 months. Once a week, every week, apart from when my counsellor's been on holiday, or I've been on holiday, or one of us has been ill, which has pretty much only meant that I probably missed 4 weeks over the course of the 7 months. And I've got to say it's been interesting. So a lot of stuff you start to talk about, and obviously when you start to talk about it, it's like you start with all the busyness that's in your head, and eventually you talk a little bit more and you start to break it down into smaller and smaller pieces until you find, like I say, the root cause of why you have a particular mindset, or why you feel a certain way about something, or why you see things in a particular way. A lot of it is down usually to one event. Like what one event was like the catalyst to you to see life in a particular way. This obviously isn't necessarily true in terms of one single event for a lot of things. For example, people who may have a certain mindset due to abuse. Obviously, abuse isn't necessarily a one-time thing. It can be a long-term thing, but it is still potentially like that one factor. It's the factor around the abuse that then has the impact on a person's mindset as the individual going forwards. I've found therapy to be it's been helpful without a doubt, but it's hard to explain why it's been helpful, because I still sit here today with some of the struggles, or quite a lot of the struggles that I had when I started therapy. But I think it's helping me find clarity of mind almost as to why I see things that way, why I feel things that way, and it helps you to sort of rationalize, if, for me anyway, if there's sort of a right for me to feel a certain way about something, or whether I'm just a little bit deluded. I think is one of my biggest struggles. It is like, am I okay to feel a specific way about something, or realistically, am I just a little bit, off, like really off in a mindset? Like, is there something like properly wrong? And that can be challenging at times. It can be challenging at times because I feel that there's very different ways to look at something. And a lot of times I wonder, am I just being a diva? Like, am I just having like a diva strop about things? And then, you speak with the counsellor and you work through things and you find out that you're not. And potentially what you're talking about is arguably sort of the norm for a lot of people. Just the way that it's been laid out to you, or the way that it's been denied to you, makes you feel awkward about it. There's still a lot of work to be done. The person-centered therapy isn't necessarily a quick fix. The fixing all still has to come from myself. It's not like I can just turn up to therapy and they sign a prescription and, the drug, if you like, is therapy, and you take so many therapy sessions a week or a year and you're done, you're fixed. A lot of it is to do with understanding why you have a particular mindset, and hopefully you as the individual then are able to work around that problem, that mindset. Okay, my mindset is like this because of how I was treated as a child. It makes you aware of that. So when you're going forward, it's like you try not to become so susceptible to similar sort of things, or you try not to become so triggered by certain things. It doesn't fix it in terms of, I can't turn up to the counsellor and be like, I feel like I'm stuck in life, tell me what to do. Like, they can't do that. They can work with you and go, okay, why do you feel stuck in life? And for me, there's a lot of stuff, like, I feel that I struggle to make a decision, and obviously having a bad ability to make decisions impacts you going forwards, because, well, if you're indecisive or you can't make a decision, then how do you see life progressing? And, you know, through talking with him, it turns out that we can literally pretty much put it down to the exact thing that caused that. And it was something that happened to me when I was a kid, when I was 12 years old. And, you know, I had to make a very big decision, which at the time, for me at the time, almost felt as bad as choosing which parent lives or which parent dies. It wasn't that extreme, but at the time for me, that is what the impact felt like in terms of my decision. Fast forward all these years, and that plays a massive part in why I struggle to make decisions. Now, for sure, there's a few things along the way as well, like negative reinforcement when I have made a decision, and then how other people have responded to that decision, and then how that's made me feel. And it's that negative reinforcement that my decision making wasn't right, that, you know, that then obviously layers on top of everything else. And you are kind of forever trying to work through these things, but it makes you more aware of them. It makes you understand yourself a little bit more. And if you can understand yourself a little bit more, if you're aware of something, then I think you become a little bit more able to do something about it. I know one thing for me especially is I'm trying to listen to people more and to listen to what they're saying, because we as a society get triggered too much by people. We are very emotional beings. If somebody is saying something to us, we get very personal sometimes. We feel that it's directly at us, and that if somebody's just trying to say something to us, or, you know, say something that we might not like, we have an emotional response to it, and usually that emotional response is to get defensive. In doing so, you actually miss out the context of the information. You miss out what the important thing is that's being said, because you only hear, you know, the bit that hits you emotionally. So I have noticed that is something that I have tried to do a lot more, is to disconnect myself from a situation, disconnect my emotion from a situation, to try and get the best understanding of what is being said. The problem I have with that is that works if more than one person is doing it. Because if I'm having a conversation with somebody who is emotionally triggered, and I'm sat there trying to understand what they're saying, that conversation really only flows one way, because they're allowed to say their bit and I try to understand for what is being said. And then if I have a response to what is being said and they get emotionally triggered by it, the conversation doesn't flow, and no resolution, or, you know, no understanding is usually found, because somebody's got defensive rather than listening to what is said. But if you find people who are able to talk openly about stuff, it can make things a little bit easier. Emotionally inside, it can still hurt, don't get me wrong, because you're not completely and utterly void of emotion. So it can still trigger you internally, but it's important to try and not let that emotional response be the first response, and to kind of listen to what they're being saying. But there are times with therapy that I feel that I have just really bamboozled my therapist. This week was a prime example, where you're talking to him about how it feels. And when I say it feels, it's usually like, I can give loads of examples. So it's almost like I feel a particular way because here's the evidence of why. And this one was like, it feels that I have a darkness that follows me around, that no matter how upbeat or how positive I try to be, this darkness sooner or later infects whoever or whatever it is that's around me. And we were talking about this, and the only way I could describe it to him is like, when you stand against a wall and there is a shadow, you cast a shadow and it goes up the wall and it's so much bigger than you are. It feels like that is following me around. And I'm trying my hardest so that people don't notice it, but the reality of it is very noticeable and it's there. And we were talking about it, and there's a few things about this sort of negative energy that I feel that I bring around that have been picked up on by other people without them realising it. And my therapist today was he was trying to question it in terms of it's mysterious. And we got talking, and I don't know what his beliefs are, and I don't know really what mine are to some degree, but it was like something that happened to me made me feel that it was almost as if on a spiritual plane my energy was having a fight with other people's energy, but in the real world, in this world, neither of us knew why. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, there's so much stuff that it feels that I confuse my therapist, or he doesn't understand, but his job is to try and understand, and in all fairness to him, he does. He'll constantly ask questions, and I'll try and break things down in multiple ways to try and make things easier to understand. And don't get me wrong, when he gets it because he's picked up on stuff that I haven't really picked up on. There's certain things that I feel certain things towards, and I suppose an example of that is like, for whatever reason, I feel that the way that I look towards my family is very, very old school. And we were talking about something, and I can't exactly remember what we were talking about, but it was a case of me trying to explain something to him not really understanding it, me explaining a little bit more, and the light bulb finally clicked, and then he was able to go, that explains why you also then have this old school view of your family. And it actually all links together. Like, he's able to connect a lot more dots than what I am. But I think that's because realistically, when you live your life day to day, it all just blurs. And you kind of lose your way a little bit. It just is what it is. But when you see somebody on a weekly basis and you tell them a little bit about things, they paint their own picture of understanding. And they're able to go, so how you reacted or how you feel about this was actually because of what happened to you here as a child. And it kind of all starts to make a little bit more sense to them. And when they can start to make a little bit sense of everything, that's when they're able to understand where you're coming from, and then help break through some of those problems that you've got. It's a case of helping to understand why you feel a particular way, and then sit down and kind of talk about, okay, so how do you approach trying to get a new mindset on something? Don't get me wrong, there's also been times where I've definitely sat there and gone, therapy's not working, it's not doing anything to me, it's just a waste of time, it's a waste of money, it's just a complete waste of everything. But I felt that those times have actually been like a knee-jerk response to me just having a meltdown. Is person-centered therapy any better than, say, journaling? I honestly don't know. There's an argument to say that they're actually quite similar, and the whole point of person-centered therapy and journaling is basically to speak into whatever means the way that you're feeling and your thoughts, and it's that is the process that helps. So whether you journal or whether you speak to somebody about it, it doesn't really matter which. But as somebody who's never journaled, I can't offer any take on that whatsoever. Part of me would like to journal, but I don't know how to explain it. It just feels a little bit corny. So going therapy in itself was a big step, because it's just not something that, I don't know, it's just not something that seems like the solution. And I was speaking about that today as well, and it was a case of, well, why did I do it? It's a case of I've tried to manage things on my own and deal with things on my own, and the outcome has always been the same. Nothing's ever felt that it's getting particularly better. I have, a moment where I feel that I'm doing okay and things are better, but then sooner or later we kind of return back to those feelings of being stuck or whatever it might be. But with therapy, it kind of helps you understand where those feelings come from, and then once you understand where those feelings come from, you kind of understand how to work through them and manage them and deal with them, and you just basically start to understand yourself a bit better. And that's my full feeling on the therapy, is it's helping me understand things, and I feel that information of understanding is the important bit. It doesn't fix the problem. Understanding doesn't equal solutions, but I think it's the big start to what you need to do. But yeah, hope you're good. See you in a bit.